when I'm feeling
Hello, thank you for joining me today for Purpose Driven Life, book written by Rick Warren, the 40-Day Guide to Knowing and Finding More of Your Purpose Here in Life. We've been learning a lot, and today we are on day 27. Okay, day 27, we're going to be defeating temptation today. Second Timothy, chapter 2, verse 22. Run from anything that gives you the evil thoughts, but stay close to anything that makes you want to do right. 1 Corinthians 10:13. Remember that the temptations that come into your life are no different from what others experience. And God is faithful. He will keep the temptation from becoming so strong that you can't stand up against it. When you are tempted, let me repeat that. He will keep the temptation from becoming so strong that you can't stand up against it. So he will keep it from being so strong that when you are tempted, he will show you a way out so that you will not give into it. There's always a way out. You may sometimes feel that a temptation is too overpowering for you to bear, but that's a lie from Satan. God has promised never to allow more on you than he puts within you to handle. He will not permit any temptation that could not overcome. However, you must do your part too by practicing 4 biblical keys to defeating temptation. All right, so the first thing is refocus your attention on something else. It may surprise you that nowhere in the Bible are we told to resist temptation. We are told to resist the devil. But that is very different, as we'll explain later. Instead, we are advised to refocus our attention because resisting a thought doesn't work. It only intensifies our focus to the wrong thing and strengthens its allure. Let's explain a little bit about this. Every time you try to block a thought out of your mind, you drive it deeper into your memory. By resisting it, you actually reinforce it. This is especially true with temptation. You don't defeat temptation by fighting the feeling of it. The more you fight a feeling, the more it consumes and controls you. You strengthen it every time you think it. Since temptation always begins with a thought, the quickest way to neutralize its allure is to turn your attention to something else. Don't fight the thought. Just change the channel of your mind and get interested in another idea. This is the first step in defeating temptation. The battle for sin is won or lost in your mind. The battle for sin is won or lost in your mind. Whatever gets your attention will get you. That's why Job said, I made a covenant with my eyes not to look with the lust upon a young woman. And David prayed, keep me from paying attention to what is worthless. This is pretty good. I'm going to read a little bit more. Okay, so have you ever watched a food advertisement on television and suddenly you feel you were hungry? Have you ever heard someone cough and immediately felt the need to clear your throat? Ever watched someone else release a big yawn and felt the urge to yawn yourself? And you may be yawning right now as you read this. Joke. That is the power of suggestion. We naturally move toward whatever we focus our attention on. The more you think about something, the stronger it takes a hold of you. That is why repeating, I must stop eating too much, or stop smoking, or stop lusting is a self defeating strategy. It keeps you focused on what you don't want. It's like announcing, I'm never going to do what my mom did. You are setting yourself up to repeat it. Most diets don't work because they keep you thinking about food all the time, guaranteeing that you'll be hungry. In the same way, a speaker who keeps repeating to herself, don't be nervous, sets herself up to be nervous. Instead, she should focus on anything except her feelings, on God, on the importance of her speech, or on the needs of those listening. Temptation begins by capturing your attention. What gets your attention arouses your emotions. Then your emotions activate your behavior, and you act on what you felt. The more you focus on I don't want to do this, the stronger it draws you into its web. Ignoring temptation is far more effective than fighting it. Once your mind is on something else, the temptation loses its power. So when temptation calls you on the phone, don't argue with it. Just hang up. Sometimes this means physically leaving a tempting situation. This is one time it is okay to run away. Get up and turn off the television set. Walk away from a group that is gossiping. Leave the theater in the middle of the movie to avoid being stung. Stay away from the bees. Do whatever is necessary to turn your attention to something else. Spiritually, your mind is your most vulnerable organ. To reduce temptation, keep your mind occupied with God's word and other good thoughts. You defeat bad thoughts by thinking of something better. This is the principle of replacement. You overcome evil with good. Satan can't get your attention when your mind is preoccupied with something else. That's why the Bible repeatedly tells us to keep our minds focused. Fix your thoughts on Jesus. Always think about Jesus Christ. Fill your minds with those things that are good and that deserve praise. Things that are true, noble, right, pure, lovely, and honorable. So I'm going to move on to another. We spend a lot of time. I wanted to read more and more of this because it's a really, really good subject here. Reveal your struggle to a godly friend or support group. So this is another way to defeat temptation. Reveal your struggle to a godly friend or support group. Talking about it to somebody. This is what I'm going through. And chances are God will put somebody in your life in that support group that has actually overcome the same temptation that you're struggling with. You don't have to broadcast it to the whole world, but you need to at least one person you can honestly share your struggles with. Resist the devil. That's another. Remember what it said in the beginning? We don't resist the temptation. Actually, it doesn't say in the Bible to resist temptation. It says to resist the devil and he will flee. After we have humbled ourselves and submitted to God, we are then to defy the devil. The rest of James 4:7 says, resist the devil and he will flee from you. We don't passively resign ourselves to his attacks. We are to fight back. Okay, another way to defeat temptation is realize your vulnerability. God warns us never to get cocky or overconfident. That is the recipe for disaster. Jeremiah said, the heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. That means we are good at fooling ourselves. Given the right circumstances, any of us are capable of sin. We must never let our guard down and think we're beyond temptation. Don't carelessly place yourself in tempting situations. Avoid them. Remember that it's easier to stay out of temptation than to get out of it. So it's easier to stay out of it than to actually try to get out of it. So we need to stay away from it and don't get ourselves in it because it's going to be harder for us to get out. Don't be so naive and self-confident. You're not exempt. You could fall flat on your face as easily as anyone else. Forget about self-confidence. It's useless. Cultivate God confidence. So none of us are exempt. None of us are exempt. Our point to ponder, we're going to go ahead and round up. For day 27 is there's always a way out. Our verse to remember for today is coming out of 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. God is faithful. He will keep the temptation from becoming so strong that you can't stand up against it. So he's going to keep it from becoming so strong. So there's a way out of it. So we end up falling for that temptation. Remember, he made it to where it was not going to be too strong for you. You have to choose to turn away from it. And because he's going to make a way for it. Because it says here, he's going to make a way for you to get out. When you are tempted, he will show you a way out so that you will not give into it. So when he shows you that way, God is not a liar. If he's saying that this is what he said in his word, that he will show us a way out, he will show you a way out. So there's no excuses. Our question to consider, who could I ask to be a spiritual partner to help me defeat a persistent temptation by praying for me? Who can you ask to be a spiritual partner to help you defeat a persistent temptation, and you can ask them to pray for you? Who is that in your life that you can probably ask and you can team up with? Okay, so that's day 27, and next time is day 28, and tomorrow's title, our next day is It Takes Time.